All right, it's about 5:55, but we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. We have almost a full house, so we have a quorum. At this time, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father God, we thank you for this night. We thank you for this day. God, we just ask you to watch over this meeting, give us wisdom as we go about the business affairs of Dorchester County. God, we just ask you to guide us and lead us. And Lord, thank you for the safety to come to the meeting, and ask all here get home safe tonight. And for that, we'll just give you the glory. Amen. If we would join us, please, at the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Assuming that everyone's received their minutes from the last meeting, has reviewed them, is there any comments, deletions, or additions? Hearing none, do I hear a motion that we accept the minutes as presented?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Motion made by Glenn. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mrs. Harper. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? One opposed and 5 in favor, right? Did you vote, Sammy? Yeah. Okay, right, yeah. Okay. All right. First item of business is a variance for special exception applications, to reduce the minimum lot size requirement to less than 21,708 square feet, half acre. Applicant is John McNeil. Madam Administrator, please.
Yes, sir. This first item for your consideration is variance request to reduce the minimum lot size requirements for this property off Scotch Range Road. It's zoned R1MA, which essentially requires a half acre minimum lot. The lot is 0.99 acres, so it's just shy of 1 acre. In order to get 2 half acre lots from it, it's just shy of meeting that mark. However, in addition to the lot size requirement, there's another issue that prevents the subdivision, and that's that it would have to subdivide off of an easement. So you wouldn't be able to get 2 lots that meet the minimum lot width requirement from here in order to be able to do that. And this board, because easements are land development regulation, this board has no authority over that. So even if this board were to grant a variance for the minimum lot size requirement today, it still would have to go to the Planning Commission for a waiver from the easement requirement. The lot, like I said, is just shy of 1 acre. It's been platted for a long time. I think, one of the plats that was done for it was 1965. There's been some discrepancies. I think the applicant put on the application that it originally was a 1 acre lot, and the 1965 plat does show a 1 acre lot. Both plats from 1965 and current day show 66-foot right-of-way for Scotch Range Road. So there's discrepancy over whether some land was lost due to the installation of the road itself, or whether it could have just been a surveying error. Either way, though, it was done well before the current purchaser purchased the property. That would have been a long time ago that it happened. Other lots in the area vary. Like I said, there's really it's more rural in nature out there. It's not a typical subdivision where you have, cookie cutter lots. So they range from half acre lots up to several acre lots in that area. They are on septic, I believe, no sewer. There is a residential dwelling on the lot. It has been used residentially for a long time. I believe it's still currently being used as a residence. So there's no issue that prevents the continued use of the property for residential. With regards to the easement, the county does not allow subdividing property off easements. So within the suburban areas, the suburban zoning districts, you actually have to subdivide off of platted right-of-way. There are other lots in the area that have subdivided off of easements. That's usually where an existing easement was already in place. So I think next to this is Country Boy Lane, but that's been around for a long time, and it's a full 50-foot full 50-foot easement. So subsequent subdivisions have been allowed off of that. What's been proposed for this lot, is shown on the plat that was submitted, is only a 30-foot And again, it's an easement, which would require planning commission waiver because the current regulations do not allow it. So the applicant did provide their application. Those 4 required questions have been answered. Those were forwarded on to you for your consideration. However, after reviewing the request, staff provides the following facts. 1, that the lot in question it's a legal conforming residential lot with a dwelling on it. There's nothing that prevents the lot from being used in a manner consistent with other lots in the vicinity. 2, other properties in the vicinity all meet the minimum size requirements. 3, without the variance, the property could be continued in its use for a residential lot. It can even support the addition of an accessory dwelling unit on it. And then 4, the authorization of the variance to allow the subdivision of the lot will potentially strain the infrastructure, which was just not designed for an increasingly dense suburban-style development. So based on these facts, staff finds that the application does not meet the requirements for a variance and therefore recommends denial of the request.
Any members of the committee have any questions with the administrator?
I do.
Yep.
Can you explain a little bit more about the subdividing off of an easement and some of the conflict that arises there?
Sure. So within the suburban areas, where you have the suburban zoning districts, R1, R2, and you have those smaller lot sizes, those are traditionally done off of a right-of-way. Usually the lots are small and they don't have the land available to create an easement to access property. In the rural areas, you've got large lots, large acreage, and it's, really not feasible to create a dedicated road right-of-way to go serve a smaller lot way in the back of a 20-acre lot. But in the suburban areas where you have, typically you've got storm drain infrastructure or even a curbside or roadside ditch. You've got water and sewer and all of those provisions in there. It really needs to be done off of a road right-of-way. And we require a full 50-foot right-of-way to allow two-way traffic in there. Easements are more of a rural-style development pattern. And
Is there any parallel to the subdividing off easement with what could have been lost in translation, the 0.01 of an acre to where the lot would have been a full acre?
so even if
Or are
it was
these totally?
even if it was a
separate?
full acre, it's totally separate from that. That is a land development requirement, and that's just based on the zoning district itself. It has nothing to do with the lot size requirement.
And I guess from the plat here, they're looking to subdivide from side to side, correct?
Correct.
With the dwelling there?
Correct.
So they're looking to make a front parcel and a rear parcel.
Correct. And,
And the
in other
easement-
areas, you
easement
see.
runs the length of the
It
property?
does. And in other areas, you'll see sometimes flag lots where that is not an easement, it's actually part of that rear piece of property, but flag lots are only allowed in certain zoning districts, and the R1 district is not one of them.
So besides the subdivision, right now, nothing would encroach any of the easement with the proposed plan for variance? Mm-mm. Okay. It helps a little bit.
In essence, this house will be behind the first house, so therefore the people on both sides will now have a house behind their house,
Correct.
right?
Yes, this would allow for another home to be built behind the existing house. Yes, that's the existing.
This line is showing the footprint of the house?
That-
Width?
Yeah, so you're looking at distance measurements. So you're seeing the footprint of the house.
You can sit down, sir, we're not in the public hearing part, we'll be with you in just a minute.
Yeah, so you're looking at the footprint of the house, and then those lines that come from the house to the roads are just distance measurements.
So the only way they can get his easement though is, if I'm right, is that line cuts off part of this.
No, that's just a measurement line. So the easement, and I'm sorry, you can't see my cursor up there, but the easement is to the far left side of the property, and it's a 30-foot dashed
I
line.
understand that,
You
but
see
I'm
that,
saying-
okay.
What I'm saying to you is,
Yep.
the easement literally cuts off part of front of the house. This house goes straight, this line goes straight, so this,
That's not part of the house. That's just a distance measurement from the road right-of-way, from the front property line to the corner of the house.
where, Do we have something showing where the house, the placement of the house?
I'll actually go back to, if you look at this aerial, you can see that the house is set back a ways from the street, from that front property
So
line.
it's- what I'm saying is, go back to that.
Oh, sorry.
What I'm saying is the easement comes here, so the easement is gonna come in front of this house.
The easement clears the house. The easement clears the house.
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about if you're standing in the house and looking out and that easement goes on an angle, it goes in front of that house.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It goes in, the easement is in front of this house. Right here,
Right, because the house is turned on the lot.
right?
Yes, I see what you're saying now.
Okay, so there's no other area, nowhere else in that area that we've allowed a stacking of houses, basically one behind the other?
Where there have been existing old easements before, we have allowed further subdivision off of those easements. If you look at this map here, you'll see the lots right next to it. These are all served off of Country Boy Lane, which is an easement that runs up here.
Go to the next picture, I think
But
it showed
a
it
50-foot
clearer.
easement.
This one here. But that's a 50-foot, that's correct. It is a full 50-foot, same as right-of-way.
Right.
Anyone else have any questions of the administrator?
Not at this time.
Hearing none, at this time, we'll go into a public hearing. Anyone wishes to speak for or against this, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If you would approach the mic, please introduce yourself and state why you're here. And identify yourself, please, for the clerk. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the owner of the property. I guess the depiction doesn't really clearly identify what happened. First, the county has it listed at an acre. And, the original plat that the surveyor was able to recover had it listed at, you'll see that there's different coordinates now from the current. And he explained to me what happened is, the state took over commanded maintenance of the road. And when they took over maintenance of the road, they also acquired part of the property. That's why if I wanted to get the ditch cleaned out, I would have to call the state to get the ditch cleaned out. So in essence, what happened was approximately 13 feet of the front of the property was taken in that process. So I'm requesting that I get back 4 feet. Because in order for the subdivision to occur in terms of the lot requirements, I was short by 400 square feet after this had been done. So he recovered the original survey that I did share with the planning and zoning department.
So, I have a question for you. Who you building the house for behind you, or you just trying to sell a lot?
My intention was to build a house for my mom. She's up in age now and still want her to maintain her independence. And my intention is to have a house built out there, but there was one alternative where they shared with me about doing a 900 square foot accessory dwelling. So I wouldn't be interested in that. But I think the primary point that really gets me is that whether the lot is still listed as an acre, even when you survey it, like I said, he even said that, at one point in time, the lot was actually a little bit over an acre. But after the road they made changes for the roads or whatever, he said, now like my property line doesn't start, like you could be in my driveway and it's still not my property, according to the new property lines.
You are aware that the only place that number where the county says how much property you got, the only place that really plays is on taxing you. As far as that being a reality, go to the courthouse and have fun, and I promise you, if you pull 50, 49 of them are not what matches up with the actual plat that's recorded. I don't understand it, but it's been that way for 100 years, and nobody's ever been able to clarify it, because I buy land all the time, and I pull it up, and the county says acre and a half. I pull up the plat, and it says acre and a quarter, sometimes it's more. So you can't use that.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Right.
what information is still being parlayed out there.
Okay.
And I'm not using that as a justification for due diligence.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. How far is your residence, your house itself, from the easement that you're planning to put in to get to the lot in the back?
It's probably about, I'd say, 8 to 10 feet.
Okay, any other members have any question?
What size structure would you like to optimally build?
It's looking like about 2,000 square feet. And the thing is, they're stacking all around me. So I understand what we're saying about easements and so forth. But that's, the neighbor beside me, their lots are, everything's stacked up where they're using, like you said, Country Boy Lane. It's hard to really give the depiction, but there's 2 driveways. The previous owner used to have an 18-wheeler where he'd come in on one driveway, and I utilized the other driveway. But it's clear, there's no, it may appear from the graphic that the easement is encroaching upon the property, but it's not. So whatever is the next step in the process, I just want to get an improvements right now in terms for this variance, because like I said, even if it's just the 400 square feet, this thing has dragged on now for me for over a year, just about. And so ordinances have changed, and I'd rather address each level. If it's another board, I got to go up and request an appeal, I'll go ahead and do that. I don't think I should, at this stage in the game, I invested in the property accordingly. I don't want to be limited to building a 900 square foot home, as an accessory dwelling for my mom. She still has her state of independence. She's almost 80 years old. She had a stroke. It's at a point where I'm trying to do what's in the best interest of my family and be able to build a nice house out there. She doesn't lose her independence. 2,000 square feet, 2,100 square feet. Even if it's a way to limit me or something to that effect, I don't mind. But I don't want to be limited because there's a discrepancy on whether the road was being maintained by the state or not, and whether there was 400 square feet I was short of when I could have done this and got this all resolved about a year ago. But the 400 square feet is what was the sticking point.
My concern, we have to look at, here we are 2021, but what happens in 2035 when your mother moves or you move and somebody's got a house back there and we got less than normal setback between your property and that right of way. You got somebody driving by your house, 8 feet from your house. 2 people don't know each other. That's your mother. If your mother, at 80, she's not driving, but if somebody goes to your mother's house at 10 or 11 o'clock at night for whatever reason, and they light up your bedroom, you just call them up and say, "You son of a gun, turn your lights out next time." But if you got, wait a minute, let me talk. But if you got 2 people that don't know each other in that situation, then it becomes another problem. You're not even meeting minimum requirements for the setback. If your house wasn't there, you had this empty lot and you wanted to put that right away in there, you could not build your house where you've got it because it doesn't meet minimum setbacks between the easement of the right of way and where your house is sitting. You got 8 feet. That's not minimum. What's minimum? 10,
7.5.
15.
Side yard setbacks?
Yeah.
7.5.
7.5?
7.5 in
Well,
R1.
I'm sorry, I owe you an apology. I thought it was 8. I thought it was higher.
That's a simple fix.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just concerned about, you got somebody behind you and man, that's close.
The way it is right now, I guess the best thing would be providing a visual for you guys, what's there right now. In terms of where we are as neighbors, the only thing that separates me from my other neighbor, the way it's set up, is my driveway and some bushes. You know, I don't, it's not a situation where if it's going back to good, simple values of knowing who your neighbors are, having communication. We live in a crazy time, but it doesn't hurt to come in love. I mean, I know my neighbors, we don't do cookouts or anything, but everyone's aware, know what's going on. I know when they're building, something else going on, because they're building another house on the other side. I don't think the distance and the size of the property, there wouldn't be any issue as far as setbacks and having the space you need where you've got adequately. It's a nearly an acre property. It's a lot of space and a lot of land.
Right.
So,
I think the problem is not that, it's just you're so elongated. You know, if you were square, you know, it would be a simple fix, but a elongated piece of property is a little more difficult to deal with than something square. Glenn?
so I have a question. So from the information here, it appears that, yes, the size is an issue, but it's also mainly to me about the easement, which typically is 50 feet. So, which you'd have to go to the planning commission about the 30 feet, the 30-foot easement. So were you made aware that you would have to go to the planning commission, even if it passes here?
Yeah, I was made aware, like, you know, after everything was done, that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's when I found out about an accessory dwelling for 900 square feet, and what I would need to do to, you know, appeal that.
Right.
But there's an opportunity to appeal that.
Because I think, you know, with the Cowboy Lane over here, if it has a 50-foot easement, which it does, that would be the differentiating factor. You know, because I think .01 acres is not a, you know, huge deciding factor. It's the 30, this is 30 feet of the easement, right? That's the sticking point here, or the main sticking point.
Yeah, I didn't.
That we're
know
voting
was-
on.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a sticking point.
Okay.
I didn't know. That was, what I came in was under the impression that 400 square feet deficit was the issue. So,
It's one of them.
That's, right, that's one of them, but the second is the 30-foot easement.
The issue with the easement.
It should be a 50-foot, and then I think this would pretty much go through if it was 50, which of course your dwelling would get in the way of that.
Is that's not correct? He has the proper easement that the county requires right now.
Well, right now, the county doesn't allow easements within the suburban districts, but where easements are allowed, it is 50 feet.
And the easement is put in place by the developer.
Right, the easement is just, you know, it's retained on the piece of property. It's just a right of access versus a right of way, which is actually separated out from the parent parcel. It's
So-
not part of the parcel anymore.
So is the county of necessity of this easement? Is there anything it needs this easement to access? Is there drainage? Is there
No,
anything?
no, the sole purpose for this easement is access.
And all this was laid out by the developer?
Right.
Okay. So I think the board will agree with me. We all try to be problem solvers when it comes up to things like this. And I think the .01 of an acre, the 400 square feet, I think that would be navigable, given that we didn't have this other situation. In my mind, it seems that all the solution you're wanting is to be able to have this accessory dwelling, so to speak. You want, you know, a mother-in-law suite, you want a place for your mother. So I think we can kind of work around this by kind of doing away with this and addressing the fact of the accessory dwelling and allowing a variance for a larger accessory dwelling due to hardship with the easement in place.
All right, any other members of the committee have any questions? Thank you, sir. Any members have any further questions of the administrator?
Not at this time.
Hearing none at this time, the chairman will entertain a motion. Chair passes the gavel to the vice chairman. The chairman makes the motion that we deny the request pending on the administrator's The recommendations, that it's just too many variables. So therefore, I make a motion that, based on the findings of the administrator and the information received at this public hearing, that we deny the request.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion?
So what I'm curious about is the alternative, because what you said, I think, is there might be another way to get what the applicant wants, but not this particular way. So,
I feel, if I understand correctly, I believe it's something that we can bring up under new business currently, or do we handle it during this motion?
I think you could do it during this motion.
Okay. All right. Well, currently we have a second to deny this particular variance request. So is there any further discussion about the variance request and the motion before us that has a second?
Call for the vote.
All vote by the usual signs. All for? All against? The ayes have it.
All
pass
right,
the gavel
item
back.
number 2 on the agenda is a variance request for section 13.2, section 10.4 to eliminate the buffer for a water storage tank.
Well, before we move on, even, Mr. Chairman, that motion has died, but we should be able to bring up another motion, correct?
The motion passed. The motion passed.
That did on this variance.
Yeah.
But I'm making a motion as a part of a different request.
You making a motion to do what?
The way I understood it, that an alternative motion could be handled either as new business. So I'm making a motion to bring up new business to handle an alternative to their request. Because we voted on this variance.
Yeah, we voted on that variance.
That's correct. Now, this motion I want to make is totally separate from this, from the information in this package, so to speak, because they did not ask for a request to change the accessory structure dwelling.
I think that motion would be out of order in this point. That we dealing with the facts presented to us and what's before us, but it's not for us to deal with what's not presented. In other words, if he wants to approach it from another way, then he's got to go back to the planning committee and approach it from a different direction. I don't think this committee has it.
Well, I think the gentleman is definitely put in his time. It seems like he's trying to make every legal effort, as other applicants had. And, you know, I feel certain that it's something that we should be able to handle. Now,
I'm gonna
if I'm,
deny the motion because I just think it's out of place.
okay.
Moving along. Variance for, to eliminate the buffer for a water storage tank, Madam Administrator.
Yes, sir. The second item for your consideration is a variance request to eliminate the buffer requirement for a water storage tower. You all have seen several of these requests for both water storage towers and cell towers recently. The ordinance actually was amended related to cell towers, but still applies for water storage towers. So this would be within the Winding Woods Industrial Park up near St. George. It was always intended that there would be a water tower that the Lake Marion Water Reach project would tie into. They have subdivided a lot specifically for the water tower. They've submitted plans during plan review. Again, it was discovered that there would be a required buffer. It's not the same height to depth buffer that we've seen before with some of the other projects. In this case, it's a type A 25-foot buffer. However, the first 75 feet of the property itself is encumbered by a power line easement. So this would eat up another 25 feet behind that, which essentially makes the whole first 100 feet or 1/3 of the property, even a little more than 1/3 of the property, completely unusable. And then the other uses within the industrial park, we anticipate that this will largely be warehousing and distribution. They don't actually have a buffer requirement within the industrial park from each other or other uses within the industrial park. So this is the only use within the industrial park that actually would require a buffer. Now, if it abutted property outside of the industrial park, it would require a deeper buffer against the residential or agricultural, but this does not actually abut property outside of the industrial park. It is entirely located within the industrial park. So again, you did receive your application. I believe there were answers provided for those 4 questions for consideration of a hardship. Staff has reviewed the request, and after reviewing it, has the following findings, which is 1, that the lot in question, it's 1.27 acres, which is encumbered with a 75-foot power line easement. It's also located within an industrial park. 2, other properties in the park are larger. They do not have to buffer against each other for these types of uses being considered. 3, requiring the buffer on the parcel would essentially prevent the tower from being located on the site, which has always been intended for a tower, and it's needed to provide water within the industrial park. And 4, locating the water tower on the parcel does not create a detriment to adjacent property or harm the character of the industrial park. Therefore, based on these facts, staff finds the request meets the requirements for a variance and therefore recommends approval.
Any questions of the administrator? This is going up by the new building that was just built on Highway 78 in that industrial park?
Yeah, so
correct?
if you look at the map, you'll see that new building that was built at Highway 78 and Winding Woods Road, and this is well behind it.
Where's the water coming from? I know it's coming from the lake, but how's it getting there? Is it there now?
It's coming up 78, is that right?
That's correct. There's it's called the Winding Woods Reach, coming from Harleyville, down Shortcut Road, up 78th.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions of the administrator? If none, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone here wish to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, we declare the public hearing closed. Committee members? Chairman will entertain a motion at this time to accept or deny this request.
I make a motion to accept the request for the variance due to the extraordinary conditions of the existing power line easement and the other facts stated by staff.
There's a motion to accept based on the information presented. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second it.
Second. Mr. White, any discussion? This is solely contained within that industrial park, am I right?
That's correct.
So therefore, a buffer really doesn't matter because they control, the county controls everything going on within that.
Correct.
So it doesn't affect any other adjacent property owner in any way whatsoever.
Correct.
Other than property within the
Within the
industrial
industrial park.
Correct? Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by the usual sign. Unanimous. All right. We're moving right along. Report of the chairman. I am not going to be available for the December meeting, and I would like to see, because of the holidays and all, if there's a difficult with anybody else, if we're going to have a quorum for that meeting. If not, then we'll just call it off now, so she won't be planning anything in December. So that's Christmas, right on, it's holidays, New Year's, all that, so I won't be available, I won't be here, so if anybody else knows they're not gonna be here,
What's the date on that? The 29th, 22nd?
Hold on, let me see. It's that 4th Wednesday.
22nd.
22nd
29th.
or 20? Let me pull up my
No,
calendar.
that's 1, 2, 3, 22nd. It's five
Yep, okay.
Wednesdays in
So the
December.
22nd, yep.
Yeah, that's 2 days before Christmas.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that, we don't have a meeting in.
Motion made by Mr. Reeves that we change the agenda to omit that meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. DeHaze. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion that we omit the December meeting, and then the next meeting will be scheduled in January. Right hand, please. Unanimous. Okay. Chairman's report, none. Report of the zoning administrator.
I do not have a report at this time.
Okay. At this time, any public comment? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, please leave the building. Thank you. Have a good night.